Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Belarus. And now it gives me great pleasure and honor to give the floor to His Excellency Dr. Eldirdiri Mohamed Ahmed to address the General Assembly. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, heads of states and governments, Excellencies, heads of delegations, honorable ministers, Your Excellency, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency, President of this session, may the peace and blessings of God be upon you. Allow me to express in the name of the government and people of Sudan our sincere wishes for a successful 73rd session of the General Assembly. I would also like to congratulate Her Excellency Maria Fernanda Espinosa on her election as president of the current session, as well as her assistants and vice presidents, wishing them all the success. We'd also like to express our appreciation for the expertise and efficiency of your predecessor, Mr. Miroslav Lajčák, for presiding over the 72nd session. Mr. President, this session is held under the title Making the United Nations Relevant to All, Global Leadership and Shared Responsibilities for Peaceful, Equitable and Sustainable Societies. This reflects the interest of this international organization towards peace, sustainable development, providing and protecting fundamental rights and human rights, which are all the basic pillars of the UN. They exemplify the hopes and ambitions that we all aspire to achieve. We, along with the international community, look forward to this leadership role played by the UN to promote a balanced development for peaceful, equitable, and sustainable societies. For this organization to undertake its necessary role in serving humanity and confronting all challenges in all fields, we have to reform the organization so that it can be more effective and capable of responding to such challenges. Mr. President, the National Dialogue Initiative, led by His Excellency Omar Hassan Ahmed Al Bashir, President of the Republic of Sudan in 2014, led to the formation of the Government of National Accord with the participation of all specters of the political parties, including the armed movements in Darfur, which shows the peaceful settlement of this crisis along the Doha document for peace. This was reflected positively in promoting peace and security all over the country. It was crowned with the successes of the first two phases of the exit strategy of UNAMID, pursuant to Security Council Resolutions 2363 of 2017 and 2429 of 2018. This exemplified yet another success story in the transition from peacekeeping to recovery, reconstruction, and social reconciliation. In this vein, we would like to express our readiness to continue cooperating and provide all facilities to implement the third phase. We would like to commend the partnership between the UN and the AU in Darfur. We hope that the United Nations, the donors, and the friendly countries would participate effectively in the Donors Conference due to be held recently to promote stability and finance the different projects of recovery, reconstruction, and development, as well as the peace-building programs in Darfur over the transitional period in preparation for the exit of UNAMID in 2020. Mr. President, it's vital to refer to the successes and tangible results achieved thanks to the national campaign of weapons collection. This was the result of the social sector's cooperation with the government's efforts in cooperation with the different partners, notably UNAMID. This led to a reduction in crime rate, curbing drug trafficking and human trafficking. It also led to greater movement by the citizens and the repatriation so that they can undertake different economic activities. Once again, Mr. President, the government of Sudan believes that negotiations is the only path towards peace. Thus, it extended a helping hand to the armed groups in southern Kurdistan and the Blue Nile and participated in the different rounds of negotiations on different rostrum. And to provide the environment conducive to such negotiations, it was committed to the unilateral ceasefire agreement in all theaters of operations for over 2 years. The government of Sudan launched a number of initiatives to open up access to humanitarian corridors to ensure delivery of humanitarian assistance to southern Kurdistan and the Blue Nile, those regions under the control of the rebel movements in the Blue Nile, which are still refusing to participate in such initiatives. The government of Sudan agreed that the United Nations undertake the task of delivering humanitarian assistance from within the country. The government makes ample effort to ensure economic reform and regulate fiscal policies and set transitional strategic policies to reduce poverty and achieve sustainable development and the 2030 agenda. Despite those wise policies adopted by the government to mobilize local resources and promote the role of the private sector and govern the fiscal management, however, the unilateral sanctions imposed on my country, the impact of the accumulated foreign debt, led to undermining our development and our ability to engage in the necessary development activities. It has also undermined its capability to attract the necessary foreign financing, since it was not allowed to have any debt exemption according to the HIPICs, despite the fact that Sudan has met all technical preconditions. We reaffirm the need to have a debt exemption along the initiatives known to all. We would like to recall that Sudan has the potential to achieve food security in Africa and the Arab regions, so we have to support my country in that field. We appreciate the U.S. administration's decision adopted in October 2017 to lift the trade embargo imposed on our country. We look forward to lifting Sudan from the list of countries called or claim to be supporting terrorism. We also look forward to a positive partnership in the future, especially that we are quite active regionally and internationally to combat terrorism in all its forms and aspects. We would like, in this vein, to refer to the recent report issued by the United States administration that stressed that aspect of Sudanese cooperation. Sudan was and remains a sincere defender of the principles of justice and international cooperation in our attempt to fight impunity. However, the selective approach adopted by the ICC made this important international court lose its impartiality and led to the disappointment of the international community, especially among African countries. Thus, the position of my country is aligned with the decisions adopted by the AU, which stresses that this court is nothing but a political tool that don the mantle of law to achieve political objectives, leading to breaking the will of peoples, especially African people. Thus, we call for heeding to the African voices. We warn against the politicization and abuse of the United Nations under the title of international justice based on the cooperation agreement signed between the UN and the ICC, which have negative influence on the UN, pushing it into the realm of international political conflicts. Mr. President, my government has made concerted effort and hosted huge number of refugees that went beyond 3 million in numbers. We provide them with the necessary assistance, covering around 70% of their needs, while the international community only responds to 30% of their needs. This presents a huge pressure on the communities providing assistance to the host communities, especially in light of the harsh economic circumstances of my country. Those circumstances will not change in the near future. Thus, the influx of refugees towards my country will continue. Therefore, I urge the international community to accelerate the provision of the necessary assistance to my country so that it can uphold its responsibilities towards this humanitarian situation. We have made great progress in the field of promoting human rights in Sudan. This was crowned by the Human Rights Council that commended our effort and our positive cooperation with the Human Rights Council's mechanisms recently. My government has made great efforts to combat human trafficking and illegal migration as well as the transnational crime. This aimed at bringing peace and stability on all levels, be they national, regional or international, thanks to the geographic location of Sudan in the heart of Africa. The last of these efforts was the joint initiative by the countries of the Horn of Africa and the EU to address the root causes of illegitimate migration, known as the Khartoum process. We have high hopes that the international community would reach consensus and recognize the leadership role played by Sudan to combat the issues related to migration. We reaffirm our position that rejects terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, including state terrorism, as a means to achieve political objectives. Sudan has expressed such position by committing to all regional and international agreements ratified by the country. We've long been an effective and active member internationally, regionally, and bilaterally. We have contributed amply in combating such phenomena and prevented so many terrorist operations thanks to the exchange of information and the very good relations that link Sudan with its partners, be they regional, international, or bilateral. In this vein, we express great concern due to the Islamophobia phenomena that has been widespread via various means. We strongly condemn such acts that lead to differentiation and abuse of religions and spread sentiments of hatred and lead to an environment conducive to violence. We should not link terrorism to any religion, culture, or civilization. We have to continue cooperating and engaging with each other to implement the UN global strategy to combat terrorism in a comprehensive manner. We stress the need to adopt a comprehensive approach to fight terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, taking into consideration the different cultural, social, economic and political aspects related to this phenomena, including eradicating poverty and supporting development in developing nations in Africa and promoting dialogue between the North and South. We pay great attention to the environmental issues locally, regionally, and internationally, and we reaffirm our commitment to all agreements related to environment due to the very negative impact of climate change that we have felt in different parts of Sudan due to the desertification, the floodings, and other aspects. This was quite clear in the conflict in Darfur, which started with conflicts between the herders and the farmers due to the drought that affected the region. And this is a clear demonstration of the direct link between such impact of climate change and environmental deterioration from the one hand, and the conflicts on the other hand in Africa. We call upon the international community to support the different national and regional initiatives in this field, such as the African Green Line. As to the issue of water, we have adopted a comprehensive approach that is also balanced to manage water resources with other countries, partners in the Nile Basin. We continue to cooperate and coordinate with those countries, notably Egypt and Ethiopia, so that we can settle all contentious issues related to the Nile water. Mr. President, once again, we stress our full commitment to all international treaties and agreements relevant to international peace and security and demilitarization, foremost being the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which we have acceded to since 1973, as well as the other nuclear treaties. We support all efforts made in this vein, and we play an important role in promoting cooperation between African countries to implement the treaty on the ban of the use of chemical weapons. We have to stress the pillars and values of peace and stability all over the world to lead to stability. We cannot achieve such pillars without eradicating weapons of mass destruction. We are fully committed to support all international efforts aimed at realizing such objective. We also work on tackling the spread of small and light weapons, since they have a direct relationship to the transnational organized crime, terrorism, and drug trafficking. We work hard in playing an important leading role in this field in the framework of the AU, the League of Arab States, the different regional and international groupings like the ICGLR, as well as on the bilateral level to ensure full control on the borders. We would like to express our sincere congratulations to the government and people of the Republic of South Sudan for the progress achieved in reviving the agreement on settling the conflict in South Sudan, which was reached in Addis Ababa on the 12th of September 2018. That agreement was signed by all parties to the conflict, in addition to the stakeholders from the civil society, youth, religious leaders, and other important members and figures in the community of South Sudan. That was the result of negotiations undertaken in Khartoum from the 25th of June to the 28th of September 2018, thanks to an initiative launched by His Excellency the President of Sudan and a mandate from the IGAD summit. In this line, on the 26th of July, the Khartoum Declaration was signed to ensure a ceasefire in South Sudan. Later, all parties to the conflict started the negotiation process. Following this step, a number of other agreements were signed, the last of which was on the 30th of August 2018, thanks to the sincere effort made by the Sudanese mediation because we always uphold the principle of settling African conflicts within Africa. We must also highly appreciate the great efforts made by IGAD and the leaders of its member countries, for they have effectively contributed to the achievements realized. We would like to refer to the efforts made by the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, the head of IGAD, His Excellency Abiy Ahmed, and His Excellency, the Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni, and the Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta. Their concerted effort came line in line with the efforts of His Excellency Omar Al Bashir, which led to the potential of bringing peace in South Sudan. I would also like to thank the Troika countries for their support of the IGAD. These are the United States, the United Kingdom, and the Kingdom of Norwegian Kingdom, for the support provided to the negotiating process. Would also like to thank the United Nations, the African Union, and the European Union for their support during this phase. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, if there is one country on earth capable of speaking about the sacrifices it made for South Sudan, that would be my country, Sudan. We did not agree to voluntarily let go of a quarter of our territories and a third of our people and 3/4 of our petroleum products unless it was for the establishment of statehood in South Sudan, allowing the people of this country the right for self-determination in an unprecedented move never seen before in Africa. And the only reason for that was to bring peace and stability in Sudan and South Sudan. Thus, we will ensure that all effort is made to maintain peace. I stress that those who doubt the capabilities of the leaderships of Sudan and South Sudan to work together, or the countries of the region and their capabilities to continue working in unity in support of South Sudan, that they have to give peace a chance. We hope for a bright future for South Sudan, and this cannot be achieved unless we implement the agreement reached. As to the donor countries, I would like to stress that all your pledges and givings will be worthwhile. They will only be a lost cause if the current chance to bring peace was lost in South Sudan. Therefore, I call upon all those countries to continue their support for South Sudan, for they are in dire need for such assistance and contribution. The countries of the region, during the last summit held in Addis Ababa, called on the Security Council to look in expanding the regional protection force in South Sudan from 4,000 soldiers to 8,000 soldiers, and to ensure that Sudan, Uganda, and Djibouti and Somal would contribute to these forces. And we call for a quick response to such appeal so that we can undertake those huge responsibilities, since we are the guarantors of peace in South Sudan. Ladies and gentlemen, the separation of South Sudan from Sudan was not an easy or smooth matter. There are so many issues still pending among the two countries. However, this new environment that came as a result of the initiative launched by the President of the Republic, Omar Al Bashir, through the mediation between the two countries, led to a real change in the relations between those two countries. Within 41 days only, we have tackled so many issues that remained pending for years and built trust among both countries, especially thanks to the good relations between Salva Kirr and Dr. Riak Mashaar from the one hand, and President Omar Al Bashir, the Sudanese mediation. Therefore, all circumstances are currently available and conducive to greater trust and ending this page of conflict forever, especially when it comes to the Abyei issue. We welcome the address of the first Vice President of the Republic of South Sudan, Mr. Taban Denkai, in front of your august assembly, when he stressed that they are willing to contribute positively to settle the problems of South Kordofan and the Blue Nile. Ladies and gentlemen, there are so many principles enshrined in the UN Charter, and they should be enjoyed by all countries, foremost being to live in peace. And we call upon the international community to cooperate with us so that we in Sudan and South Sudan can actually live in peace side by side, just like all other countries. Sudan reaffirms its support to the joint initiative between the African Union and the UN to bring peace and stability in the Central African Republic. We would like to commend the ample effort made by President Faustin Archange Touadéra. We hope that it will be a great success. We have hosted a number of parties and armed movements from Central Africa and attempted to mediate among them to reach an agreement that would end the division and infighting in Kirr. We will continue on that path under the umbrella of the Peace and Reconciliation Initiative in Kirr, in line with what has been announced by Mr. Moussa Faki, President of the AU Commission, during the high-level meeting held on Kirr during this GA session. Sudan stresses its principled position vis-à-vis the Palestinian question. We condemn any form of aggression on the religious sanctities in Palestine, notably Al-Quds. And we support the Arab Peace Initiative to establish a Palestinian state along the line of 1967 with East Jerusalem as its capital and the withdrawal from all occupied Arab territories. My delegation condemn the gross violations of human rights against the minority Muslim Rohingya in Myanmar, as seen in the killing and the demolition of homes and mosques, forcing the displacement of thousands from their homes. We call upon the international community to take practical steps to stop such violations and bring its perpetrators to accountability. We renew our position supporting the constitutional legitimacy in Yemen. We call upon all political specters in Yemen to engage in the political process, denounce infighting, and avoid the choice of violence so that they can reach a political solution that would stem the bloodshed of Yemenis along the lines of the GCC initiative and the outcomes of the national dialogue, as well as Security Council resolutions. We also are anxious to ensure the territorial integrity of Syria. We support all efforts made so that we can surmount the current crisis in Syria, which has been turning more complex day after day. We stress the need to bring about stability in Somalia. We must provide it with all necessary support so that it can confront its different challenges. We welcome the breakthrough achieved between Ethiopia and Eritrea. We look forward to strengthening bilateral relations between those two countries, which would bode well on the governments and people of both countries and the countries of the region at large. Turning to Libya, we have long had a principled position supporting the people of Libya, striving with the international community to ensure the success of different initiatives that aim at bringing peace and stability in Libya, foremost being the Revitalized Agreement that represents the main political pillar in Libya. We also refuse and object to any interference in the internal affairs of Libya, since this would have huge repercussions, catastrophic repercussions on that country, its stability and security, as well as the countries of the region. We express our readiness to host the upcoming meeting of foreign ministers of the countries neighboring Libya. Ladies and gentlemen, we support once again the reform agenda that the Secretary General is striving to implement, especially the efforts made to strengthen the different agencies of the General Assembly, since it plays a very important role in maintaining international peace and security. And such reforms will make it relevant to all people and to face the different renewed challenges. Once again, we would like to reaffirm our commitment to multilateralism under the leadership of the UN. We stress the noble purposes that were the building blocks of the UN, foremost being maintaining international peace and security, achieving sustainable development, and promoting human rights through an approach that is underpinned on international cooperation and dialogue to enhance friendly international relations to settle conflicts through the peaceful mechanisms of settling disputes. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to thank His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Sudan, Dr. Eldirdiri Mohamed Ahmed, for his address. And now I give the floor to His Excellency Dennis Ronaldo Moncada Colindres, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Nicaragua.